Hello, welcome to another Legacy Talks. Today I'm here with Jackie Castro Cooper. We are here to highlight the Hispanic Heritage Month, which was from September 15th to October 15th. And this is going to be probably a date beyond that, but we'll have it in perpetuity. Jackie is someone that I met many years ago and was very impressed with her and her family. And since then, I've had an opportunity to hear her speak at Leadership Gulf Coast and engaged in some other projects. Today she is here representing the Hispanic community, and she's also going to tell us a little bit about her book. As you know, Legacy Business League is a membership organization that represents minorities on the Mississippi Gulf Coast, and we are embarking on our networking opportunities again very soon. So please watch our website, iamlegacy.org, for upcoming events and dates. So Jackie, let's get right on into it. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your background.
So I was born in Colombia, South America, in the capital, Bogota. And then at 5 months, I was taken to New York City. My mother sort of escaped because she was in a very bad marriage. And so I was raised in New York City, and then I married a Biloxi boy when I was 27. And then we moved down here to raise our first child at the age of 32. So that's how I ended up here. And I now love it here too.
Fantastic. So how have you been able to maintain and celebrate your culture? How would you do that, incorporate that into your life?
I have my husband, I took him to Colombia, Scott, and I taught him some Spanish before we went. I took the Spanish one book and teached him, and we went in 97. And he said, you know, Jackie, I really want to, 1992. Our first child was in 94. And he says, I really want to keep your family traditions, because he knew me for about 5 years up to that time. He said, I just love your Hispanic culture, and I want to keep it up. So he started speaking Spanish to the children as soon as they were born. And I kept on speaking Spanish, because every child can learn up to 7 languages before the age of 7. So the brain absorbs so much. So the more languages you can share with your children, you'll see that a lot in like Manhattan. We lived there for a very long time as well. And there's a lot of nannies who come from Japan, from Mexico, from Spain, from France, from all over the place, so that the child can learn at least 2 or 3 languages at one time. So I just found it fascinating. So that's what we did.
I find that children who learn 2 different languages, they seem to have a greater cognitive abilities too. And I mean, maybe that's stretching it, but I know the 5 children of another Spanish speaking woman that I know, their standard scores are up through the roof, and just have the ability to absorb information in a way that, you know, non-Spanish speaking or dual speaking individuals do. So maybe I think there's probably some evidence that that supports that somewhere, but so I'm just going off of my own personal experience.
Because when you travel to Europe, everyone speaks 3 to 4 languages. That's everywhere. Right. Now, granted, you know, here in Mississippi, Louisiana would be like, we were in Spain, that Portugal would be right there, or France would be up on top of us instead of, you know, Kentucky. So, I mean, of course, it's much easier to speak different languages because of the closeness of the other countries. But I just found that fascinating. And I keep my culture up with the kids, because every time we have holidays, we introduce the Spanish way of doing Thanksgiving, or the Spanish way of doing Christmas. Like the first time we celebrated Christmas with my husband, he was like, it was midnight. He's like, don't you guys ever go to sleep? And I'm like, no, we're going to start eating now, because baby Jesus is born right now after we go to midnight mass. And then we come home and then we start partying. And he's like, wait a minute, what about Santa Claus? I'm like, well, we really don't celebrate Santa Claus too much. It's really about Jesus and about, you know, eating and dancing and drinking.
Yeah.
And, he was like, and so when our kids were born, he was like, I really also want to do the American thing, which is, okay, let's go to sleep. So we would party all night, go to sleep, and then the kids would open up their gifts in the morning so that we could celebrate both cultures.
Both cultures. So it was important to you to honor your background, but you've still been able to maintain American cultures, but jazz them up with your Hispanic background. Is that what I hear you saying?
It's beautiful. It's everything you can put in a soup always makes it better.
Yeah.
You know?
Are there any coast-wide celebrations that if someone wanted to participate in and just kind of be a part of?
There used to be in Jackson, recently, maybe 2 or 3 years before COVID that happened. And that's the Hispanic Association, the Mississippi Hispanic Association. And they are actually needing some help because they can't find a venue anymore because they're doing a lot of infrastructure in Jackson.
Mhm.
And so they're looking for a venue right now. So if there's anyone that you know of or your organization knows of in Jackson that can help get that Mississippi Hispanic Association festival going. The Hispanic Festival is always the third Saturday of September. So they're looking for a venue for next year. Mobile, Alabama has one as well in October, and we don't have one anymore because unfortunately we had Arturo Barejas pass away, and he was the owner of Mosaic, and they used to have even just Latin night and mosaics, but they don't have that anymore as well. So yeah, we don't really have anything going. We even had a club. I don't know if you remember the Level Club over at the Blue Marché. They would have Latin, they would every Saturday night, the second floor was all Latin dancing.
Okay.
It has not come back yet, so we shall see.
Okay. I have heard of a club in Gulfport that does some things, so I'll have to get the information for you.
Oh, Michael's maybe. Michael might have it once in a while. Yeah,
Okay.
I do need to look at that.
Okay. Do you surround yourself with other Spanish speaking individuals? And do you share space and time together to kind of commiserate or just have friendships because you have a common background?
When I was raising my kids, we had the Hispanic association down here. It was for in terms of Catholics. And so it was in St. Thomas Church, and Father Louis would do the Spanish Mass. Now I'm involved with the Hispanic community in terms of the undocumented youth. So I created something called the Alliance for the Education of Undocumented Youth. And that's because once they graduate from high school, they've lived here almost their entire lives. They came here when they were little, and then they live here all their lives, but they don't have citizenship because they weren't born here. But they've lived in Mississippi forever, and they graduate from high school, but they cannot go and pay the same amount as every other community college person does. So we pay for their college tuition at NGCCC for 2 years.
Fantastic. So how do you get that funded? Private donors, or do you do grants?
Yeah, have private donors that do that, because there wasn't enough people to create a board, and we really needed things to act quickly and fast. And so we decided to just keep it to just, 2 or 3 people, and then that was it. And we vet the kids through different ways, and we have a communication with the community college. So that helps out a lot.
Well, if you ever need us to get the word out, please send us the information of how someone can contact you and support that. What other organizations on the coast? I know El Pueblo, do you know their background? Can you not necessarily speak for them, but tell us what they do?
Yeah, so they have there's 2 people there, Mary Townsend and another person, who are certified to help with immigrants. And that's not just people from Mexico, that's people from Africa, the family that you had brought up from the Ukraine. So there are other people who just kind of land here, and we send them to El Pueblo, and they have 2, not lawyers, but they're legally educated. And then they also have a lawyer as well, and they help them. So I've volunteered for them many, many years, and we still do things like food drives during COVID. We had to do a lot of food drives for the immigrants because they were not getting the $1,200 check. They also, a lot of people think that they get food stamps, but they do not get anything. They don't get insurance, health insurance. They don't get food stamps. So a lot of people think that they do, but they do not. And so we were helping them in that way, and we still do, so that we have a little network that we make phone calls to if there's anybody who needs anything, and we try to help each other out.
Okay. What do you feel like I'm going to put you on the spot here, but what do you think or feel like the atmosphere, the environment, the culture is here now in terms of acceptance for undocumented workers? I know when we were trying to reach the Hispanic community for COVID shots and vaccinations, it was a challenge because people were fearful of coming out to get treatment when at one point there was a huge spike in Hispanic cases because of the cultural aspect of living in small, in areas with multi-generations. So what can we do to help support that community? Just from personal perspective, and again, I don't expect you to advocate on behalf of everybody, but just your opinion. What is the feeling, the tone, undertones like now, right now?
It's not as bad as with the last administration. It was really bad with the last administration. Now it's a lot easier because ICE is not on top of people going to restaurants and arresting. So sadly, Mississippi was marked with the worst raid in the United States 2 years ago, and that was up in the north. I forget the name of the town, but it destroyed not just the families, right? It destroyed it killed the entire town. It destroyed the banking system, the restaurant system, the education system, and it was because they raided I think the poultry place, and they deported or put in jail actually I think over about 300 individuals.
Wow.
And then the children, when they came home, they had no parents. So that is what we have been dealing with. And so it's been horrible. So we're still recovering from that, and they don't trust anybody. So when COVID hit, they were like, well, we don't care. We can get COVID as long as we don't get deported and we don't get, put in jail. So they could care less about COVID because they had more serious problems to deal with. So feeding their children, because here, the beautiful thing about Mississippi is anyone can go to school. It doesn't matter where you are from, you can go to school up to 12th grade. After that, it gets a little harder. So it's hard. It's hard to be an immigrant. It's hard to be undocumented. But if we get hit by a hurricane, guess who's going to come and rebuild our home and our city halls?
That's right. That's exactly right. And they were saved the Gulf Coast in a lot of ways after Katrina, for sure. And they're much more visible. And that's what I mean, is like I don't see a lot of visibility right now. And so, but from what I understand, even with the census, it demonstrated that there was an increase. So is there anything else that you want to highlight about the cultural aspect of Hispanic, and what's the difference between Hispanic and Latino? Like sometimes it's interchanged, and today I'm using Hispanic specifically because that was the description of the national holiday. But can you explain the difference?
Well, there really isn't any difference, but the new word is Latinx.
Yes.
I called a lot of people before I did the presentation for Gold Coast leadership, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to be updated, because I'm 60 now, so I don't know what the new words are. So basically, it's interchangeable. It really encompasses South America and Central America, Mexico, and can include Spain, right, which is in Europe, but not necessarily, but I do include, so anyone who's from Spain, I do say Hispanic, Latinx, or all that. But what I did want to mention to you, since you asked, is I was speaking in New Orleans at this Hispanic group, they're Hispanic businesswomen in New Orleans, and I said to them, it is such an honor to be Hispanic because we cover all colors of the skin. I mean, my grandmother's sisters took me to a place in Colombia called Tolu, and it was for New Year's. And I remember arriving and everyone had dark skin. Everyone was black. And I was like, what is happening here? I mean, you could see that in the capital, but everyone, I was like, wow, is this still Colombia? And they were like, yes, isn't it beautiful? And I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. And they were the food, the partying, the dancing, and they were Colombian. And so when I was in New Orleans, I was like, if you go to Puerto Rico, there's all different colors. If you go to Colombia, all different colors. So we as Hispanics, and I was looking up some, we were talking about like what's happening on the coast. I saw someone had talked about Afro-Latino. In Cuba, there's a music that was created and it's called Afro-Latin jazz, Afro jazz. And so there's actually a movie that I would love for everyone to see. It's called the Buena Vista Club. And it was these Europeans that went to Cuba to check out, where's this African Latin jazz coming from? And they were expecting white people. And it was like 80, 85-year-old, 92-year-old, dark skinned, and yes, Black people that created this Afro-Cuban jazz, which if you go to New Orleans, some jazz clubs play it very, very often. So anyway, I'm really proud to be Hispanic because we have like that. We just represent, I think we represent almost the world. We have every single color that there is. So it's just so cool. And we all speak differently. I just went to Spain, to Barcelona, and I couldn't understand anybody because they speak Catalan. And I'm like, what the heck is Catalan? Like, wow. So
that's so interesting. I do have a friend who's from Colombia / Ecuador, and when I go to some of her parties, there's like 20 women there, and they're all from different places, but the energy is so wonderful. But they have this commonality in the way they move and speak, and the hands, and the and just energy and passion around it. And I do think that is indicative of Latino or Hispanic people. And so I think, and that's what binds them together, I think. So that's what I was wondering if you partake in anything like that, on the coast, or try to.
Yeah, I try to, especially during Christmas time. I try to go to my Latin friends' homes because it's just so much fun. Because Christmas time, everybody's like, oh, let's go to bed. And the Latino people are the ones who are driving around at midnight going, where's the party? Party.
That's hilarious. Good job. Well, I appreciate you being on for talking about this, but we're going to switch gears because we have a little bit more time. You've written a book called Self-Care, Self-Love, and a physical therapist guide to evolving into higher self. So you are a the power of self-care and self-love. You're a physical therapist by trade, and so you do that in the daytime hours. And tell us what inspired you to write the book.
My patients asked me to write the book many, many years ago. And I said, you know what, I guess I could try, it sounds really hard. And it was not easy because I have some research-based evidence in it, but it's based on a proverb that says you are a house with 4 rooms: the physical, intellectual, emotional, and spiritual room, and you have to air them out every single day. So physical, just get up and just go outside and just walk around your house for a few minutes. That's it. Just get out, get some fresh air, be outdoors. The intellectual is go ahead and listen to a podcast on the way home or read a book. A lot of people don't like to read, so I said just stick a podcast and just listen to it, or an audio book. Emotional is really difficult. A lot of people don't want to go into the emotional room, but as a physical therapist, I specialize in chronic pain. I'm a John F. Barnes myofascial release therapist as well. I do EFT, emotional freedom technique. So chronic pain, a lot of times we hold things within us, our traumatic events. We've been sexually abused, all those things. And so it stays within our body, and it creates a home maybe on your neck, on your back, on your abdominal region. You have difficulty eliminating. So I deal with all of that. And so the emotional room is not an option though for healing. You've got to write in your journal. You have to express yourself by crying and screaming. I always tell my patients, just roll up your windows and scream all the way home. And when you get home, you're going to be like, oh, it feels so good, you know.
I'm gonna try that today.
Or crying. Crying is extremely important. I tell everybody, just go home, get under the covers, cry, cry, cry. And it's amazing because we're holding everything within our bodies, and that creates chronic pain. So I deal with a lot of that on a daily basis with my patients. And so the last room is the spiritual room. So whether we believe in an entity or not, it's important to know that we are energy systems. We're not just physical or chemical reactions. We're also energy beings. And so if you do believe in God or universe or divine loving light, or just inner wisdom, go ahead and connect with that, because that is your guide. It's your gut. Your intuition is guiding you. For me, it is God, but for others, it could be something different. So the spiritual is really, really important. And connecting with the spiritual, again, is just walking among the trees or sitting quietly. Like we could just do it right now for a couple of seconds. We just close our eyes and just take a beautiful inhale through the nose. And then a beautiful exhale through the mouth with a pursed lip. And just repeat that 10 times, and your body flips gears. You move yourself out of the fight, flight, freeze response immediately. You stop producing cortisol and adrenaline, and you start moving into dopamine and serotonin, which are the feel-good hormones. And that's just by deep breathing.
Oh,
and
my
most
God.
of my patients come in with chronic pain. They're not breathing. They literally are like, because they're
Yes.
in severe anxiety, depression, because they have pain all the time. So yeah, so that's my book. So
where can you get your book?
Amazon. So The Power of Self-Care, Self-Love on Amazon. It's also on my website, JackieCastroCooper.com. And then I also finished a journal with 365 days of the year. And every 7 days, every day it takes you through the same questions so that we can produce a ritual for you. Same questions every day, but on the top, the quote is different. And then every 15 days, you answer the question, what do I need? And then every 40 days, you draw a mandala if you want to. This is an example of the mandala.
Oh, how beautiful.
It was done specifically for the book. And then every 90 days, we create a vision board. So it's a really cool journal. Everybody loves it. So I'm just excited. And you can buy the journal on its own, or you can, make it work for you with the book itself. So it's a standalone, each one of them, or you can buy them together.
So say your website again.
JackieCastroCooper.com.
Okay.
That's
fantastic. I really enjoyed this. It took us a little while to schedule this, but sitting down for you for about 21 minutes just really rejuvenates me. And
I am so grateful to know you, Angie, because you're an incredible leader in our community. This organization that you're leading is so important for the Gulf Coast, really for the whole Mississippi, and who you are makes a difference, Angie. And it's such an honor to know you. Really,
I appreciate that, and I certainly have a lot of support with the founder and the board members that are engaged in Legacy Business League. So I appreciate that. I think we have some really great things on the horizon, and I know you'll be a part of those things. So I just appreciate you. So y'all check out Jackie, go to her website and get the book. And we just appreciate you for giving us some insight into this. Oh, what is that? Oh, it's converted to perfect. Of course you do. That's a perfect ending and closer to say thank you for helping us, acknowledge and recognize the National Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations. Thank you. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.